Tuz Biber FM.
Hello, can I see your passports, please?
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Passport Comedy Podcast. This is the most crowded episode so far. We have 5 people in the room.
Ooh.
People heard that we are hosting Italians, so
We now have
they
more
wanted to see
people
them.
on the podcast than listeners. It's amazing.
Yeah, I am Murat Gençoğlu. I have on my left-hand side.
Sweets. Look what she brought us. Wow. Turkish lokum. I think Turkish sweets. My name is Enes. I'm going to sometimes be here, go inside and then come back. I'll talk as long as Leon is here. I will always talk when Leon's here.
Yeah. So this is the man who's holding me captive.
Yeah, and
My name is Leon Sandler. Please send help.
we have 2 guests from Italy. One is Filippo, the other one is Beatrice.
Ciao.
Hi, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you more. Thank you for coming and thank us for sitting here and seeing you guys.
Well, what do you want me to say? Tell me, what do you want me to... I wasn't
I
briefed.
just want to say this right away, right off the bat. You look like the love child of John Lennon and Woody Allen. Have you heard of this before?
Yes, and no. I've never heard of this, and I wish I didn't.
As long as we're moving into this bit, I have to ask you, now that you've completed a 14-show multinational tour, why do you still have the same haircut as Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men? I can't unsee it. Everyone, please Google Filippo and take a look at his haircut, and then watch No Country for Old Men. It's an excellent film, and you'll see.
Yes.
That's why they invited you.
Yeah,
Just to
I'm a
roast
big
you
fan of
for-
all Cormac McCarthy movies.
Yeah, that was a weird introduction, but anyone who doesn't know about this, Filippo just did an Eastern European tour.
If
All
you
of Europe.
Well, we-
say this in Czech Republic, they will slaughter you because they will pride themselves for being Central Europeans.
Oh my God.
I don't even
Thank
know.
God we are in Istanbul.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like a whole movement from, I would say, from north to south, but in the north and south where you would not normally go. So from the Baltic down to here, down to Istanbul.
Yeah, hitting all the cities that nobody knows about.
Yeah, cities that you would say, okay, people don't go there because, they're not very central, but they must be cheap. No, absolutely not. They are very pricey. There's no reason for you to go there anymore. We did all the Baltics, then we went to Poland, we went to the Czech Republic, Vienna, Bratislava, Budapest, Zagabria, then we did Serbia in 2 cities, in Belgrade and Nice, and then Sofia.
We need to do a post-Soviet tour.
Yes.
Only Eastern Bloc. Nothing else.
But the tour is more expensive than the Western European tour.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is, because
Bucharest was very expensive, you told me.
I told you, but it is not true because we didn't go to Bucharest. We went to Budapest, but it's okay. This is not a podcast for the ones who are interested in geography. We're interested in how expensive cities are. Yes, very, very. Well, I mean, I don't want to make it about this. Do you want to say something, Bea? Because I'm getting very technical here, and they don't like it. I can
Well,
see.
those cities were famous to be cheap. So we decided, let's do a tour in Eastern Europe. So we will, make some cash and stuff. And of course, that was
cheap
not the
cities.
main result.
It's the inflation, right?
Yeah.
It's the inflation, the war, all of the
Yeah.
bad things happening everywhere.
Two
No,
comedians, 2-star hotels.
Awful.
My house as well. Would you rate how much would you rate our house between 1-star hotel to 5-star hotel?
7.
7. Wow, that's so generous of you.
Especially
guys.
for the brunch that you prepared in the morning.
yeah.
But no, we
I've been
started
trafficked to Budapest, and
We started with Eastern Europe because I live in Poland, so I have contact in Poland. So I was like, maybe we can do a show in Poland, and we're like, let's do a tour. And the cities which were close to Warsaw, were Tallinn, Riga, Vilnius, and so we slowly built this tour from up north to here.
I don't think anybody has done this ever. This route. Can we say? Is that possible?
Yeah, not since people had to escape the Nazis
Exactly.
in World War II. Did anyone take this route of coming? A lot of probably funny Jewish comedians on that route, 70 years ago. So you've done all this tour in so many different cities, different countries, different languages. What's it been like, seeing different crowds reacting to your material, different levels of English, to be sure?
It is awful.
Yes,
it is awful
I understand you
It
so
is
much.
awful to see that all of these people are the same everywhere. You go different countries, and people are the same because they're all on social media, so they all have the same references. So for us, it's easier because you can go tour in middle of nowhere countries where you wouldn't expect anyone to understand you, and at the same time, because everybody spent 2 years in lockdown, they all know what you're talking about because all the references we have are American references. Do you think I'm happy about that?
Yeah.
You're fucking American.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's only one.
Get the fuck out of here.
There's only one way now. We've invented
Go
a
back to your
universal
country.
language, and it's all just memes about Donald Trump. What can I do?
I felt like I was an FBI undercover agent bringing imperialism through the form of stand-up.
Yeah, if you're doing it in English, you kind of are. That's how it works.
That's what it is.
It's in your brain. I know this is audio only, but for the audience, assuming there is one, Filippo immediately switched to hand gestures. It's not even a second.
This is the hand
That's right.
gesture.
We're bringing the audio
Sound
in
of the
for the full
hand gesture.
3D experience. So it is kind of true. The same.
No, but what I
reference-
said,
but
what I meant,
Yeah.
what I meant is true.
But also it's true that our main audience were expats mainly
of
in the
course.
country, so they were
course.
all connected by something, and
You do
us with them.
Yeah, you do these tours, but at the same time, you're going for a target audience which is the same in all of these cities. It's like misplaced people who think they're gonna make it in another country, people who are
Who had
lost.
to flee their homeland and have
Yeah.
basically given up hope. That's your target audience.
Yes, American who left the United States thinking that they were heroes somehow for resisting
their lives
the repression.
did not go well. I gotta tell you.
But you're very right about jokes about cost of living and inflation as you travel all this Eastern Europe and coming to Istanbul. Istanbul would be the place that is the most relatable. People would relate most about these jokes because I remember booking this show like 4 months ago, and the recommended price was around 10 euros. And as you approached Istanbul, it dropped down to 5 euros
Yeah.
per person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's like-
let's say that I think
I didn't know this. What were the arrangements?
Yeah, the tour
What
was
have you done?
the tour was actually supposed to be 18 cities, but it's ending here because we can't afford to go further. But yeah, so what was the one crowd you met with that really didn't get it at all? Like, what was the place where anything that just didn't land? Or is it easier now? Because now that everyone is basically just a different flavor of American, no matter where you are, like, the jokes should land, right?
Different flavor of American.
You can't say, oh, nobody gets it because it's all just the same social media. It's all
Different
Tinder,
level of-
Instagram, whatever. So like,
I mean, there's two things I want to say. Like, number one,
We have to
is
stop the
that
woman from
you
talking,
can-
absolutely.
Please, I heard the noise. I
so
was like-
please stop. Please stop.
There's one thing is references and jokes, and the other thing is empathy with the public and to understand that you might be in a situation in which what you normally do will not work because they might not be used to this type of, like, let's think about niche in Serbia. You would have people that were into seeing an English event, but not all of them kind of were into what I was doing, let's say. But at the same time, I've been doing this long enough to know that I don't need to get too attached to my material, so I need to sort of shove it in their mouth somehow. Like, I need to really feed them properly.
That's the Italian
you know what I mean?
method. You don't ask them if they want it. You're giving it to them.
No, I mean, they paid for the ticket, so I think that all they want is to receive something inside.
Yeah, but in general, I think in this part of the world of Europe, the sense of humor is very different. And I tested it living in Warsaw, in Poland.
Yeah, the
and in
funniest
the
people.
Baltics is even more dry. Like there is even less humor, less chance to see stand-up comedy. So going to do comedy in those countries is much more harder in terms of audience than doing it in countries where there is a solid comedy base, where there is a solid comedy scene. In those countries where we have been, there is no weekly comedy show, nothing like that. So it was much harder to think, we don't know what to expect every time because we don't know the sense of humor of those
it
people.
doesn't matter how experienced you are. Audience has to be experienced as well to be audience members.
Just because you're surrounded by Turkish people, it doesn't mean you're in Berlin all of a sudden, right?
We jumped right into it actually, but maybe you can give a short introduction about yourselves, how you got into comedy. I have people
And
who doesn't.
and what is the comedy hole, and where can we find it, and how do we get into it?
Oh, that's a good question. Thanks.
Beatrice Rossano, let's start with you.
Ciao guys, I'm Beatrice Rossano. I am the founder of the Comedy Hall, which is our main English comedy collective based in Warsaw. We produce tour all around Europe actually, and this is the tour of Filippo. Italian Rhapsody is the main tour we produce so far. We have weekly shows, but now we are trying to open up to more producing stuff, especially myself. And I am
Producing live shows.
Producing
mainly.
live show. I host the show there. I'm comedian. I started a year ago, and doing comedy. But this is all like I like this. I love this.
Do you have a day job?
I have a day job, which probably they will fire me soon because
of all the time you invest in comedy.
Yeah,
Your name on posters.
but I think I'm
internet.
unconsciously trying to be fired. That's less than unconsciously, like more consciously.
Yeah, maybe make more jokes about.
But
your
I need to make
corporation.
more money, so I should not come here
No.
to have shows.
Yeah.
That's the point.
That's the only lesson you get out of
No,
Istanbul.
here,
Never
the
come
interesting
back
thing
again.
about here is if you make more money, you'll still end up making less money. It's wild. You
Yeah.
can charge double for the tickets, and somehow by next week you still will have made less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
So we are working hard with Jordan Thomas Gray and Ariel Biaski on the Comedy Hall, which I mentioned because they will be happy about this.
Comedy Hall. You also have a podcast to all the listeners out there. What's
We
the name
have
of it?
so many listeners compared to this podcast.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So it's an honor to have you guys
it's
here.
an
Thank
honor.
you.
I mean, it's
What's the
We're
name
very
of your
happy.
podcast?
climbing the ladder to Joe
It's
Rogan.
the Comedy Hall.
The Comedy Hall.
And we have a host, we have guests as you guys do every time. We talk about comedy, so you can check it out.
Well, we're gonna need you to stop because that's kind of our territory. and I
Yeah.
This is the only podcast.
Yeah.
This is the only-
I will stop.
This
I
is
will.
the only comedy podcast.
Hello,
on the
welcome
internet.
to the Comedy Hall podcast,
Is
guys.
this the only comedy podcast of this region?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, all the other,
English
all the
speaking.
I
other.
mean, but what about the other regions?
Yeah, see, in this region, all the other countries are either their governments are too oppressive or they're consumed by war. So we've really got a good grip
We are
on
in the
this
sweet
market.
spot.
Sounds like you're describing this country. Okay.
They don't understand English enough to.
Yeah.
But what
oppress
about
us.
Lebanon?
Yeah.
Lebanon? Is a great country.
Yeah, it's a great country. Economic crisis there is. The economic
And
crisis
it
in
looks
Lebanon.
really nice without all the
Yeah,
electricity.
the economic crisis in Lebanon is so bad. There's no electricity. No one can do a podcast. We got that market cornered.
They have the talent, but no
Yeah,
one can
no
hear
one
them.
can. No one can get the electricity to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And what about Greece?
Greece, too gay for no.
Oh my god.
You see why the Italians come to do comedy in these countries? Because we still have this
The same
good old
level.
humor.
The same level of humor.
Why
And
am
you
I?
were brought up in the States.
Yeah, I
Oh
know,
my God.
right? And I had to escape.
Yeah.
How about you, Filippo? Filippo Spreafico.
My God, how did you do it? Yes.
You've been doing comedy in Italian before doing it in English.
No, I started in English.
You started.
I started in English.
But
Dio, che cazzo ho fatto? Oh, sorry. Yes.
I have a Italian friend who is doing English comedy in Istanbul, saying that you were famous with a TV show with a midget. That's all I remember in Italian.
So I did a TV show in Italy on national TV, but that was just a fluke. It was because I sometimes would go to Milan to do some shows, and they went to check out another comedian. And that evening, I was in the same bill, so they also spotted me. And 9 months later, they asked me to do this comedy show, which was a panel show. It was supposed to be very improvised, but then it's like all of the politics got involved with national TV, and it became a very kind of scripted show in which we would have to make jokes about the news for.
It's against your artistic integrity. So
it was against my artist. No, in the sense that they hired me specifically because they could see I would improvise.
Yeah.
Then they put me in a position in which I couldn't improvise at all. And anytime I tried to improvise, they would cut me off the show. But they kept me there. I also, thankfully, you brought up the word midget, which is very important for all of our native English speakers so that they can turn off the program immediately.
We're not going to bleep it. So if you're listening in Western Europe or America, just bleep it in your head.
Yes. So
you don't have the technology to bleep.
But you would be happy.
You have to do it, yeah.
You would be happy to know that the midget in question would be happy about the term that you referred him with, which is midget, if nobody has heard it yet. And when I say midget, I mean midget.
Go into the mic a little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Iman Achiti is a good friend of mine. He's from Australia. He's actually Lebanese, but born in Australia. And he was doing the show with me as well. And I brought him on Italian television because a friend of mine.
So
that's it. So that we did it.
You didn't like throw him at a target or something, did you? What happened?
No, he was probably the only one who knew about comedy in that whole show, I think. The only one who knew about stand-up.
Well, if you should do more stand-up, because no one's going to ask you to talk about the news here.
The news.
The news?
No, nobody talks. Oh, you mean here in this country, not here in this podcast.
Both.
Also, yes. This podcast being an extension of
this country,
the government.
Yeah, this. They're listening in for sure.
Circling back to political correct words, I don't really know what's the difference between a midget, a dwarf, a little person.
It's the income level.
Sorry if I offended anyone.
The income level of your country that determines the difference that you perceive.
I think some words are just not good for some people, and that's all I have to say. Little person is the most appropriate one.
I'm a little person, but I'm no midget.
And dwarf is nice because you can also refer it to stars. Dwarf planets, dwarf star. No, so it's cute. It's also, but like midget. No, midget is.
Is the most offensive.
It's the most offensive, yes.
Yeah. Or
we should cut this part, by the way.
Sorry,
I think.
Beatrice, did you want to add to that?
No,
tirade of hatred that we have going on?
No, I have nothing to say to add to this very interesting conversation about these terms. So please keep going.
Exactly. And what is where can people find the comedy hole? No.
Right.
They are explaining this in Comedy Hall in detail.
Exactly.
That's all they talk about in
exactly.
Yes.
So, they're kind of short-staffed.
But that's I'm only quoting my friend. I didn't see the show myself. I just have secondhand information about it.
So I would say maybe it's not so representative of what I've been doing, but I've been focusing more on live stuff. I worked, on Italian TV. I did a set at the Comedy Central in Italy, but mostly I started out, the first set I did was actually in the States. I was doing improv before, and then I went into stand-up just by chance. And the first shows I did were like open mics in the States. So I did a lot. I especially the very beginning. I was based in Berlin, so there was a scene in English there. And I also had a job that allowed me to go to the States every once in a while. So I would go there and do open mics in literally those mics in which people sign up. There's like 42 comedians. There's only comedians.
I always signed up in the very beginning, and they always somehow put me in the end anyway. Yeah.
You get bumped down
because the other people there are taking a comedy class that's being offered by this
the meritocracy of the States.
The meritocracy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Extra levels of capitalism in works. I think you have to buy a watcher and a ticket for their comedy lessons, lectures.
So
So yeah, so it started like this, and I later started to do it in Italian.
Yeah. Did that experience with Comedy Central kind of turn you off of Italian TV in general, or is that still kind of the goal?
No, I'm based in Rome right now. I'm running shows both in English and in Italian. I don't know at this point because we spent most of our time talking about midgets. So I don't know at this point.
I
what
was
should
staying
we
away
be-
from that subject.
Well,
now
actually,
you get it back to it. All right, let's resurrect
your
it.
friend on the TV show was a dwarf star, so
Yes.
yeah.
Did I offend you by saying midget? I'm
No,
Let's not make it-
look how tall he is. How could you offend him?
No.
No, let's.
No.
No, I'm getting mixed messages
She's-
now. I
she's
don't
being-
understand. I feel bad.
So Beatrice, you're a very like accepting and welcoming person of all people of all kinds. And what's it been like, organizing these shows with the Comedy Hole? Are you getting like an international team together, like the Avengers, but less funny, or what? What's it like being a producer for this new international scene that you're trying to build from the ground up?
Yeah, we are an international team of especially Jordan and Ariel, American and Canadian guy. But we are building this thanks to all the comedians that are in Warsaw for the local scene. So there used to be an English local scene, but then during the pandemic, it stopped. Then it restarted, but it was not that solid. And at one point, we were like, okay, fine, let's try to have an audience because less and less people were coming to our shows. So we rebranded
Because of COVID, of course.
No, because of us.
You weren't
Because of-
funny enough.
Come on, guys. Imagine, like, it's like here, right? Like, the scene is very new. Comedians are not used to the stage, are not used to talking. So it's normal. It's like, it's healthy that at the beginning, the scene can suck. Like, this is a must.
How many years have we been doing this now?
I am doing this for 11 years.
But no, not him. But Murad, but you do it especially like in
I
Turkish.
started in Turkish.
Yeah, how old is the English scene here?
Not 2 years.
Yeah,
One and a half.
Yeah,
years.
1.5. It's nothing. You can imagine, like, it's nothing, especially when you have a very little number of comedians, and then you want more comedians, but also more audience. So audience and comedians needs to grow at the same pace. But so going back to the tour, just not to talk only about the Comedy Hall. I met Filippo. I really like Filippo comedy and because he's very different from any other comedian I saw performing. He's very eclectic. He's original, and he mix standard stand-up comedy with the more different things that he can talk about himself, but with music as well. So I was like. Can I organize your tour in those countries? And he was immediately up for it.
Someone's got to
we
exploit this
started.
young man, and I think
How old are you, by the way?
I'm very happy to
I
be in
can't tell.
Turkey and just say yes. The stereotypes are still on.
Which one?
Go ahead.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, Filippo performs both in Italian and in English.
Yes, she knows what I do better than what I do.
Yes.
What?
So, Filippo,
What did I say?
the show that you perform in English
Yes.
is called Italian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
As Beatrice said, there's a lot of different parts to it. You improv a lot, you do crowd work, you have music. How did you get into the process of putting it all together? And have you changed it in the course of 14 cities?
I put it together over. You you do a list, and then you make it a certain order, and then you see what this works or not, and then you do. I mean, how am I supposed to reply to this? Really? Like it's you put the things in order, and then you do it, and then yes. What was your actual question?
That was my actual question.
Oh, that was-
This podcast is created to teach Leon comedy. American.
When you say you put, you mean like with like what are numbers for this?
So,
Is it
in my
long-
opinion, one thing follows another. You
yes.
know, and this is not just me, but there's also like a whole set of ancient wisdom that talks about this.
called numbers. One. Yes. Number 3.
So, guys,
has it-
as Enes said,
Wait, no. I had a
Okay,
real-
where is the gun?
Because
Let
of
him
course,
play with the
obviously
gun.
you have different parts and you put them in order and stuff. But obviously you've been doing this for 14 cities, and a lot of it is improvised, a lot of it is crowd work and stuff. So do you modify it? Do you change it a lot from city to city? Has it evolved over the course of 14.
If you want to know, which I think it's your purpose,
yes,
I
that's what the question was.
I think I had like I had this different skits or like these different bits. I tried to look for an order that satisfied me, that I thought was more intelligible for the audience. And then once I found this order, I tried to stick to it because I also just thought, because I'm very prone to changing things in course of action. So I said to myself, just stick to the order that you think you both like and it's more satisfying for the audience, and just stick with it. So I would say there has been a lot of change in the order up until the 4th or 5th show. Then after that I kept the same order
Until the 4th or 5th show, it kind of changed and then it stayed the same.
Yes.
So is it that you have like the opening and closing bits are the same and you put the pieces in different order, or have some things dropped? Have some things been added on?
I dropped a few things. I added a few things because up until to a certain point, I still had the freshness to maybe write a few new jokes or like some new tags. But after a while, it was all about where do I sleep, where do I eat, and let's get the show done, because there was no extra work I could do. But like in the first 4 or 5 dates, I could do that. I could still modify things, but then it really just crystallized. So I would say I changed maybe the intro, I changed the ending, but then after that I kept those two.
How about now? Do you plan to continue doing Italian Rhapsody, improving on
Yes,
it, and
we will.
publish it at one point?
Yes, we will bring it to other cities, maybe like closer to
Everywhere.
closer to the center of closer to
money.
the big epicenters of comedy. No, we're bringing it already
It's right across
to
the border. We got all that. Yeah.
to the Brighton Fringe. We'll bring it to the Brighton Fringe for sure. I'll do Edinburgh for sure. Maybe not the entire run. We'll go to Germany. We'll go to Holland, Belgium, hopefully. Sacred.
Are you gonna do
big old Belgium?
like a packed tour like you did with Eastern Europe? Or
I think it
here
is
and
more
there?
convenient in terms of some dates will be maybe standalone dates.
I think not for like 3 weeks in a row, but in small packs like Holland, Germany.
If you do Holland and Germany or
Then
Northern,
break.
mini tours.
Close
Because-
to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Because also doing a tour, it's tiring in sense of energy. Like as he said, at one point you just are focused on it's the show, and then you need to eat, rest, because otherwise you don't have energy for the show, and then you need to travel the day before. It's tiring.
It's work. It's not like taking a vacation to
No.
do stand up. It's really like one.
And
Yeah. But we met other people who loves this stuff. You know Victor Patrashkan?
yeah, of course.
He lives on it. Like he can't really stay at one place.
no,
he-
more than a
nobody
couple
wants him,
days.
so he has to move very quickly.
Yeah, he also gave us some suggestions for the tour. So thank you, Victor.
When you're Romanian, you have to escape. Yeah.
Thank you, Victor, for not being here longer than couple days.
Love you, Victor. Thank
Love
you.
you from a distance.
No, Victor, I remember I was in Milan this summer, and he sent me a message going like, I'm in Milan. I want to...
Oh my God, are you in Milan?
I want to open mic. I need a venue with 250 people. I know how to use Facebook advertisement, so I'll pack it up. But
All right, everybody knows Victor. This is a fact check. Yeah.
so,
I can tell.
So there was an open mic in Italian, and I asked the guy if he could put him on, and he did a set, and then I took him back home, and he really just talked to me a lot about hey, we have to do blah, blah, blah. Like because he likes
He's very
to
passionate
motivate. He
about
likes
it.
to motivate people.
Yeah.
About going on the road and doing it themselves, and so in a way. We all owe him a lot in terms of.
I think he's one of the first.
He's an example.
Yeah,
you know?
He's a big
a
encouragement to take
precursor,
that big step,
of
yes.
doing solo shows around
Yes,
Europe.
I mean,
self-produced.
Scopes this cities out for you and lets you know where you're not going to make any money, and then he tells you to come there.
We are not saying that Victor doesn't do it because nobody wants him. We are, however, saying that he was an inspiration for everybody.
Well, it's very valuable experience he has got because finding the right venue, doing it by trial and mistake, it's gonna drain a lot of energy from you. Somebody experienced can save you a lot of time and energy, and thanks to Victor for that, I think.
And also, I think that in terms of if you're a valuable comedian, there is no competition in terms of, if I don't give you a suggestion on this venue, you're going to steal my followers or whatever. No, it doesn't work like that, because there are so many comedians who are doing those solo shows, but they are not well structured, the promo is not well done, because beside the artistic part, there is the business part, which is... let's say 50-50 of this job, and so like exchanging suggestions and advices on where to go, where not to go, especially, it's very helpful.
So that's my understanding of the Comedy Hole. You guys have built like an underground network, right? Like to smuggle people across different national lines. Yeah.
Well, it's that's how any business work, right? Like, and
especially
also
in Turkey,
doing things alone doesn't work anywhere.
Yeah.
It's always good to build connections and to get the support of the locals, especially. You are locals, you too.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'm the imperialist, but yes, and yet somehow they employ me. What's going on? So, Filippo, I mean, going back to the show, I'm curious because again, it is very improvisational, and I think that's really great because when you're seeing improv or you're seeing crowd work, you're seeing something you know is only going to happen there that night in that instant. But when you were putting it together, what was your process like? Do you begin with improv and crowd work, or do you write a song and then put lyrics, or is it all at once?
I mean, I think what I do in the show is representative of how I have been approaching stand-up in general, which is more about presence. 90% is presence, 10% is try to write some material. But at the same time, let's say that the way in which I have approached stand-up has not been, from the very beginning, too obsessed with material. I think a lot of comedians worry a lot about what material to write. And for me, it was a bit the opposite. I needed to know what type of performer I was before that material would maybe like... words are a layer on top of what type of performer you are.
Right. There's also your presence. There's also your delivery. All of that.
I would say I've focused more on try to feel as free as possible. But then, of course, you do have. I mean, there is material. There is all of that, and I had maybe the luck to practice a lot. I practiced like when I was, like she started the Comedy Hall in Warsaw. When I started doing comedy in Berlin, there really were very, very few open mics. It was the beginning of the scene there as well. So we had the luck of having the freedom. When you are starting, like a scene that is starting, you have the freedom of basically taking more stage time. And I spent like the second year, maybe like into 6 months of stand-up there, I would just go on stage without material. Because I wanted, it was awful sometimes, it was great sometimes, but I just wanted to train that muscle a lot. So... now I can maybe do material and I'm very comfortable with riffing on it, improvising on it, but I do have a place where I'm going to at the end. I'm not 100% doing the same thing at every show, of course.
Absolutely. And I think that's valuable because anybody can like write. Well, not everybody, as we've seen, but many people can write jokes, but it's different to actually be able to respond to things in the moment, to improvise, to adapt. That's what actually makes somebody a comedian, I think.
I think you really have done a successful job dissolving the barrier that your true self and your stage persona seems really close to each other. And it really suits you.
For good or bad, yes.
Yes, it's no, because it is true. Like first you are a normal person, and then you start doing this, and your normal person disappears, and it's taken over by the stage person. And now I am effectively a stage person, even in my private life, which is I'm very proud of.
Even in your dreams,
you
going on
ever
stage.
like meet somebody and you're just having a conversation with them, and you're like, so what do you do? Oh, I'm doing it again, aren't I? Okay.
Right. So, guys, do you want to talk about the special relationship you have in between you?
The special relationship that we have.
Yeah, this is like the
I think it's a
careless
special
whisper
relationship
part.
because we complete each other in the sense that I needed somebody who could believe in what I do and also actively believe, which means do something for the belief that they have in me. And it is lucky we have a similar sense of humor, so she can definitely do things I am not able to do, which means cooking. Making.
That's so, yeah, if you could bend down that low, you know,
That's not true.
You can't cook?
No, yes, she can't. No, what I'm saying is, with how comedy has developed in the past 10 years, like all of the normal gatekeepers are not.
They're still around.
They're not this. They're not. But no, they're not keeping the gate
As effectively
as they did before. I've noticed, like, even just you want to do an open mic, you need to now. Before, like maybe even 5 years ago, you just put the event on Facebook, and that's it. But now. There's all of these algorithms and ways to promote, and it's not like a comedian, like an artist has to be artist. Like, of course, any artist has to learn how to promote himself, but you can't do it alone, as you said before.
Yeah.
So for me, it's extremely valuable what the work of Bea has done, and I know that she will do with many other comedians and many other events.
We've had enough of gatekeepers. We want to make our own, starting with Beatrice.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Can we say she's a gate opener for many of them?
She's a corkscrewer.
This woman has her gates open. I gotta tell you.
That's nice.
Which city on the tour had the worst food?
The worst what?
The worst food.
The worst food?
In which city and of this tour?
Of this tour.
Well, for me it's a bit hard because in all those countries the dishes are based with meat, and I don't eat meat. So
you should get out of this country as fast as you can.
But
she can eat fish. It's okay.
Yeah, I can eat
fish. Is not meat.
I can eat fish. Oh.
They're conscious, but not by much. Okay.
I would say the worst food was in. Yeah, but we had mostly Asian food everywhere we went. So.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? No matter where you go, Chinese
no matter where you go,
the worst food
there is
was
a Volt
in Prague.
rider, there is the Deliveroo, there is always an immigrant who's on a bicycle.
Chinese food.
Everywhere you go, and this is why it's a united Europe.
We had the worst food was at, like, we went to a Turkish kebab in Prague, and it was the worst. I'm sorry to say this, but falafel were hard like stones.
Oh no!
But
I am
falafel is
sorry
not a
to
Turkish
say,
food.
smoke.
Do you have one for me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, falafel is not a Turkish food, but the thing is, with in Turkey, no other cuisine could make it. Like, there's Asian places, there's Indian places. There's like only 2 Indian places in Istanbul. There's a couple of maybe Asian places.
And this is
sushi
not.
No, but
this is for the quality of your food,
we
not because you're
understand
racist.
this.
No, not because we're racist, but
little
people
of
don't. People don't like other food. I think.
Yeah.
Like
the Turks are kind of
But it's the
scared.
same with
But
Italy
it's
as well.
the
I
same,
think
it's the same in Italy.
It's the
Indeed,
same in
like
Italy.
it's
You
the
guys
same.
are proud of your food.
Yeah, when you go abroad, you go to a pizzeria, Pizza Sac is the same. Like, you can find good places where to eat.
No,
but in Italy, it's very hard for other restaurants, other cuisines to be.
Yeah, and when Italians go to other restaurants, it's like, oh, let's have this type of experience.
Yeah, exactly the same in Turkey.
It's not for the food. We go
It's
home
not
and
for the
puke.
food. No.
Turks are
But it's just
scared
for
of
the
foreign
experience.
food, for real.
And it's very expensive.
The thing about like Asian food, it's the same no matter if you're wherever you are in Eastern Europe. Like General Tso's chicken is General Tso's chicken, orange chicken is orange chicken. Why? Because that's American Chinese food. That cuisine was invented by Chinese immigrants
in the
to
States.
America for Americans.
Yes,
right.
like macaroni cheese,
Exactly.
deep dish pizza.
All of these abominations and atrocities that you're naming as an Italian.
and yet they've garnered a lot of positive reviews.
Popularity, yeah.
On TripAdvisor, yes.
But the best pizza is just with mozzarella and a little bit of basil.
And a little bit of the ass of my mother, yes.
Oh yes, all the time. Ass juice of Italian mothers are the secret ingredient
Did you
inside.
say ass juice?
Ass juice, yeah. Butt crack juice, yeah. It happens only when you run around a mile and then a gram of butt juice comes out. in 1 mile of running.
I like to know I'm speaking to an expert.
Yeah, I am an expert. We export them.
I mean, your name is NS. I mean, come on.
NS, yeah.
It's yeah.
In Australia, when I grew up in Sydney, they used to call me an ass. But yeah, so Italian food is a very nice, very, very, very beautiful.
It's a
in Europe.
great topic for me to discuss.
Yeah. Because you are a chef.
No, because I am a representative of my culture, and my culture is based on layers and layers and layers of pasta.
So what do you think about Roman Empire? No, I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, yeah, it's too soon.
It's too soon.
Yeah, football. Is that next?
And what do you think about the defenders of?
And Napoli is winning the league.
And she's from
We can.
Napoli, so we
Yeah.
have a lot of.
All right,
pieces.
I'm not quite intelligible about football. Why don't you ask the questions, NS?
I know. What are your favorite Italian players in history?
But
Italian players.
Football game.
Italian players.
but
Italian.
Italian or like that played in Italy because
No, if you say that played in Italy, then that's gonna you say Maradona. Yeah, because she's from
But,
Napoli.
yeah.
Napoli. No, I'm saying Italian players. Like I grew up with Christian Vieri. He was Australian, but he was Italian. And like I was saying, who's the best? Baggio, Roberto Baggio.
Baggio was good, yes. I'm not an expert, but me, I had.
What's your favorite?
My hero was Gianluca Pagliuca, who
who's that?
was the keeper of Inter Milan in the 90s,
Yeah.
the late 90s, and we were born on the same day. So also I played as a keeper as a kid. So I was big fan of Gianluca Pagliuca, who was the second goalkeeper for Italy.
And he never played. Was that right? He never played.
For Italy. He didn't, but I mean, he did sometimes, yes.
Oh.
But he was,
So he was your hero growing up. You were a keeper as well.
he was a keeper
Did you
for
play
Inter
football
Milan.
any time in your life? Like play semi-professional football?
I played up until I was 17.
17.
I'm short, so I was not a good keeper.
That's my phone ringing. Yeah. You were short, and that's why you're not.
I was short, but I still am. But I was too.
I didn't grow a bit, but until you're 17, you never know who's gonna grow.
Now I know.
Yeah, now you know.
And it hasn't moved.
Yeah.
It hasn't really
We
moved.
were talking about like I was an Inter Milan fan. In Italy, I liked Inter Milan more than Milan. Like I don't have a favorite team, but it was Inter Milan versus like he doesn't even say San Siro. You say Giuseppe Meazza, right?
No, vabbè, yes.
Yeah, for the stadium. You guys don't know. They just tapped out of.
They have completely switched off.
What's the
I'm
like
somewhere
national
else entirely.
sport here? What's the most?
football. It's
I'm
football.
thinking about
It's football.
fascist uniforms in my head.
Fascist universe? No, man, no. Lazio's the fascist team.
But
You
in
think-
Italy, football has this social part because,
Yes,
for example,
yes.
why when Maradona was in, the fact that the South won, like the Napoli city from the South won the league was such a thing because it was a social winning, like versus the north of Italy.
The right wings.
The north
right
of Italy,
wing.
which was like the representation of other values, like we have the jobs, we have this, we have that, we are culturally developed versus you guys that are in the south. So football is is in our blood because it's a social. It's much more than just a sport.
Exactly. That's why we like in Turkey. It's much more than it's sport, but people just drain it down. So it's just because it's sport. They say that don't mix politics with football. Don't mix sociology with football. It's just a pack of guys.
Yeah,
going
but now
to
Which is the most mixed with politics.
Yes.
It's the most like even politicians go into teams just to make a name for themselves and to get elected later on.
I have a question. So, up until maybe 15 years ago. No, what year is this?
2023.
No. So, so this is what I've learned recently. Up until 1995 in Italy, all of the games were played in the afternoon, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. All of the games at the same time. That's how it was. Nowadays, there's a game on Friday, there's a game on Saturday, there's 2 games on Sunday, Sunday evening, Monday afternoon, because of the TV rights.
Because of the TV rights.
Right. But this was, the Sunday afternoon was connected to the fact that on Sunday morning, you go to Mass, you go to church.
Exactly.
So the Sunday was dedicated to church and football, okay? This is the beautiful Sunday experience.
And they are both congregations.
They're congregations. So in the morning you do your duty, which is to pray, and in the afternoon you hope that you prayed good enough for your team to win. Okay, so this has been completely destroyed by the
money,
but also the church, because it's not as powerful as it was. So otherwise we would have kept the games on. So here there's a different type of going to mass in a way. So which is more frequent. Which is
5 times a day.
So how do you see, because for me I just realized this, that their connection, the church is failing in Italy, in Western countries, and so all of the matches have been spread it out to cover more. What about here? Is this a topic we can discuss in this podcast?
Let me think about it. It's a nice question, because the connection between football and
is there a connection? At least do you see
general
one?
way people congregate is actually you can put that connection. But I think, I don't know, in Turkey, like, although there is, we have to pray, like, culturally pray 5 times a day. There's like a routine. Most people, like 90%, 95% of the people that pray only pray on Fridays.
Right.
So, like, the people that pray in a routine, like 5 times a day, that's not really, it's not really widespread. So, and the way we pray is not a congregation. We can pray on ourselves, by ourselves. So we don't have to get together, actually.
So you're like
pray.
Protestants in that.
Yeah, something like that. The Protestants
that'll be said on the podcast.
like between Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Like, the Muslims are more Protestant because I think it's because the religion was formed in the Arabian Peninsula, and it was all sand, and the place always changed. So you always needed a place for yourself, not people. When they come together in the Middle East, bad things happen. Yeah. So we don't try to come together a lot. But football is actually like an imported sport. It was imported like 150 years ago. We normally do wrestling. That's the real sport.
Greco-Roman fights.
Greco-Roman wrestling, or people on back of the horses, aiming at hunting things. So football is actually new. That's how we got. That's how we got to Vienna.
Some being hunted for sure.
And we couldn't conquer Europe. But
not in a football match.
I don't think there's like a real connection between religion and football here. But it's more of a nationalistic thing. Like, for example, there was a Beşiktaş stadium, the one before this one, was actually made by Italian architect from the Mussolini era. So the
best architecture ever made.
Exactly. By the way, and Hitler, like, not the Hitler era European architecture is very bad, but the Italian one, it's very it's
definitely not as bad as the Hitler architecture.
No, it's with finesse. Actually, it's with finesse. It has you can
big
see
blocks,
blocks with small birds around. And with back then, the idea of the stadium was actually pulled out of the Italian culture. Actually,
yes,
the idea of the stadia, people getting together, it's not necessarily Turkish, or it's not necessarily Eastern, because we don't actually congregate in that way. Yeah. So I think it's a culture put on top of whatever we have, and games being played around most of there's a call for prayer. We don't care if it's the game is just after the call for prayer or before the prayer. It would just be in the middle. But I think that's the same as because of the rights of the football game, the TV rights. Yeah. But I think before it used to be a daytime sport as well in Turkey. It used to be, because the sun's up, you don't need to don't need electricity. It's more economic. People, it's even better when it's daytime. Like when we go to Premier League, the best games I watch is like when it's at noon. Yeah. Because you can do whatever you want afterwards. You can go night out, or it's Sunday anyway, so the next day is work. But in Turkey, I don't think it's really related to worship, but it has that kind of catharsis, that worship catharsis towards your team. If we could have went to the Fenerbahce game, you would have seen
Yeah.
how fanatic they were. Like Italians, I think the Napoli, Lazio fans, and they're very fanatic. These guys are fanatic even more, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I know a friend that was thrown onto the pitch.
Yeah, but because
By other
because
fans.
usually those fanatics are also stupid. Honestly, in the sense that, and in the sense that,
Oh
why?
no!
I have to say this. Why? Like it's like because we had so many incidents. People died at the stadium. Why?
Exactly.
Like, why?
Same things happen here. People
How
die.
many people die at work?
There's other kinds of
But what
fanatics.
is this?
There's other kinds of fanatics that
I don't
cause
understand. I don't understand. Sports should bond people together and.
in violence.
But it's more about making like it's about. I think it's more about violence than it's about people getting
But because
together.
those people are frustrated, they go to the stadium, release all the stress of the week. That's why they
Yeah,
are.
but that's kind of a catharsis for men.
Because
Like in Turkey, I don't know how mixed the crowd
I think
is.
it's because it's a business, and the business is built up by hate. So how this business of football is growing, because I bet that you lose, and in the betting that you lose with money, there is much more hate than before.
I don't think so.
This
I
is why you
think it was
became a comedy
worse.
promoter.
I think it was worse before than it's now. When money goes in, people don't hate each other that much.
Yeah.
They just say they hate each other. They hate Barcelona if you're a Real
Yeah,
Madrid
that now
fan.
it's worse for
But
me.
20 years ago, they used to kill each other. Like
But
30
no,
years
just
ago, when
in this
the-
country
just
or
because-
even in this country, in like Liverpool, like in England.
I must disagree, but just because now there are more rules in the stadium for example, we cannot enter without passport, or like we cannot go. Just,
Yeah, of course.
like,
It's more
because
controlled
why?
because
Yeah,
money
because-
is the more money is inside.
No, because there were so many incidents and.
Yeah, what I think is there was many incidents before it got very capitalized. Like it was more patriotic.
I have a
before.
question. Why in football is one of the few sports in which those things happen? Like if you go to a volleyball match,
It doesn't happen anymore
It-
in football.
Why did
it
it?
still
Like in
happen.
the last 20 years, I don't remember.
Dutch team, the Dutch fan base came to Rome and destroyed some fountains because why?
Man.
It's a more popular
It
sport.
3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Was it Feyenoord? I can't remember, but it was in Piazza di Spagna.
Yeah.
They
They
destroyed this. But hooligans.
Yeah, but why
hooligans.
it happens only in football?
Because Northern European barbars come and destroy. This
But-
is what they've been doing
History
for decades.
repeats
and
itself. Yeah,
this
but
is what they
it's
do.
a more popular sport, right? I mean, there's hockey
It doesn't-
violence. There's hockey violence in Canada.
I
you know?
think it's because of the business that is around.
It does definitely makes it worse because the business is also promoting, but being with
I
your
like the
team.
way there was this Napoli game I watched when Maradona was playing. At the end, Maradona would just snort some cocaine after the game. After running for 90 minutes, he would just snort. Do you know that clip? There is a
Well,
clip.
what we say is
before there
that-
was no rules about like what you would do as a sportsman, like what would you, and like so even people that did sport used to smoke. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
And the people in
They
the
were
crowd.
drunks and they.
In the crowd, they weren't controlled that much, so there was more incidents. What we have now is because there's so much money
And then
going
they go
into
get
it.
home and they beat their wife.
Yeah, of
why
course.
it
That's the.
How else
continuance.
can you train?
Exactly.
That's-
That's the part of the tradition we're keeping.
They don't fight anymore in the stadium.
This is like a catharsis, like a Dionysus event for like they would just drink and spit and they would put out their energy there at the stadium. People and mostly men, but I don't know if it's the same in Italy. But in Turkey, like 99% of the crowd is men.
Yeah, but I don't know. Here, women can enter the stadium,
of
right?
course they-
Since
For now.
ever.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
There was even like I like the fact that in Turkey, I don't know if you saw in the news, to Fenerbahce the federation gave like a. Because there was so much violence, like they sweared a lot to the I think to the referees or something, and they had a 2-match ban without any audience, like without any crowd. But then the federation changed that to only women could enter. So the stadium was filled with 50,000 women. They were just chanting in a very high-pitched voice. It was very funny.
Wow.
And I like the way that the federation thought if we're gonna give
A punishment.
it's
gonna be only women.
night.
Stadium.
Everybody wins. There's less violence, but they still get punished. It's
And like the footballers were like just like watching around the crowd more than the crowd was watching the football.
That's very nice. I like that.
Yeah, we come up with solutions here on the podcast.
You have all strong opinions about football. I like it. Would you
Yes, bring some moderation now to this.
Yeah, I think we are approaching to the end.
Yes, we've been approaching
To the end multiple times
since the very beginning.
Since the beginning,
Since the beginning. Thanks
fall
so
of the
much
Roman
for coming. Where our audience, like 10,000s of listeners, can follow you.
Yes.
Filippo Spreafico, the next show you have, and all the upcoming shows.
We will go. I mean, I'm gonna go back to Rome now. We're gonna go back to our normal occupations.
Where you don't talk about football and Turkish food versus Italian food
Yes.
and other things as well that we don't want to disclose.
Exactly. You are, of course, very welcome to come to Rome whenever you want.
Thank you.
We're doing shows in English, so you will be able to test all of your material against Italy.
That sounds lovely.
In Rome.
I will be waiting for you in Warsaw, Poland.
And
Thank
Beatrice,
you.
how can people get a taste of the Comedy Hole?
You can check us on Instagram on the Comedy Hall, at the Comedy Hall.
So the main medium you use is Instagram. People should
Yeah.
follow Filippo Spreafico.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you
The
can
Comedy
spell
Hall.
it FILIPPOSPREAFICO.
I got lost.
Play the podcast back at half
I
speed,
will-
you'll get it.
Yeah, or you can check out the Comedy Hall. You will also find Filippo posts there, and if you don't find him directly, you can follow him from there.
It's been lovely, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
coming.
much.
you, guys.
Very happy to be here in Istanbul, actually.
Well, thanks for coming.
It's the only place where we saw snow of all of the countries we've been.
Well, you've been lucky.
Yes.
So,
I could not
all of the
wait.
listeners, thank you for tuning in. It was Murat Gençoğlu.
Leon Sandler.
Thank you.
Filippo Spreafico.
And
Ciao ragazzi, grazie Beatrice Rossano.
Bye-bye, folks.